Hey, thanks for checking out the video. If you all like it, please like and subscribe, and hope you all enjoy it. Have a great rest of the day. Okay.
Hey everybody, today we're here at the beautiful old stone house in Granite Quarry, North Carolina. Before we get started on our video, we just wanted to let you know this is a beautiful place. If you haven't come out here and spent the day out here, come out here for a few hours. It really is a hidden gem in North Carolina. But today we're talking about weapons of the 18th century, more specifically what a militia guy's carrying in Rowan, Mecklenburg County in the 1770s to the 1783. Majority of what we're doing is the Southern campaign. First thing I want to go over, so you know kind of what we're going to get at, is North Carolina militia laws. Our militia laws in North Carolina state that a person needs to have 9 shots worth of powder, a firelock, and we'll go over what that is here in a second, and a blade to fight in the militia. Now the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to let my friend Mason here go over the smoothbore, because that's what most people are carrying in the 18th century.
Absolutely. So your smoothbore was a military and a civilian arm. Military because it could be loaded a lot faster, and you don't have to worry. You're not worried about accuracy. You're worried about speed. Civilian because I can load a round ball or I can load shot down it. I can kill any sort of animal, and again, a lot easier to maintain. If I only have one gun, this is what I want. A lot cheaper than a rifle as well. But a few things you'll notice on it: no patch box and a lot larger bore. It's due to the fact that with a smoothbore, you're typically carrying a cartridge box or a shooting bag just for these items that you need to fire it. I'll let my buddy over here go over the rifle.
Okay, a rifle is what we call a specialist weapon. There are a lot, in fact, all our rifles in the 18th century are civilian weapons, but they are expensive. So it's going to cost me 3 months' wages as a farmer to buy a rifle, where a smoothbore might cost a few weeks' wages. This rifle is a 54 caliber. The most common caliber of the day was between 50 and 62. So they're big bore guns, and they're made to shoot one time and hit one thing. As Mason said, with the smoothbore, I can be shooting at turkeys, where with the turkeys and ducks or whatever with the fowler, I can be shooting at, I'm shooting at a deer, I'm shooting at a buffalo with a rifle. But the good thing about a rifle, I can knock a man off a horse at 300 yards, where a smoothbore can realistically hit a man-sized target at about 100, 120. As Mason said, with the ornaments, you see that this rifle has, prettier wood. It's got a patch box. It's got more brass on it overall, and it's got a little bit of carving on it. So your more wealthy guy's going to be carrying this, where your most 9 out of 10 of your guys are going to be carrying your smoothbore.
Now, to emphasize on the military aspect, with a smoothbore, you would also have the option for a bayonet. We don't have a military bayonet here right now, but we have what a civilian might use. This is what they call a plug bayonet. It was normally used for hunting, especially wild boar over in Europe. But as the revolution started, it was evolved to be a civilian bayonet to be plugged into the end of your bore. After you fire your shot, you've now got a pike. Pop it out whenever you're ready to load again. You can use it as a normal knife as well.
Just elaborating on what Mason's saying about blades. Like I said at the beginning, a blade is needed to be in the militia, and a blade can be 3 things. Well, 4 things really. A blade can be a bayonet, like Mason showed you here, or a bayonet is also almost a triangular pike would be the best way to explain it, where you would stick it in and twist a lot of the times, and it would leave just a horrendous wound. Sometimes they couldn't be sewn up, the bleeding really couldn't be stopped. But really here in the militia in North Carolina, you're carrying everybody is carrying a knife, or what scholars today call a long knife. You got to think a lot of these guys, if not most of them, are farmers and tradesmen, so they're carrying a knife anyway, just to do simple tasks. Another thing that a lot of these guys are carrying are hatchets and tomahawks. Again, it's a utilitarian tool. You're using it at home, might as well carry it.
Absolutely.
But your weapon of war, especially here in the Carolinas, is a sword, because a lot of these militias are cavalry, or at least have cavalry divisions. And your blacksmiths from Rowan, Iredell, and Mecklenburg counties are making what they're calling in accounts crude cutlasses, and they are crude. But a lot of times they're made out of really good steel. They're made out of whip saws, or what we call today crosscuts. And the guards are made out of scrap iron, and 9 times out of 10 they're really good blades. But what they're used for is to go up against the bayonet, because like you saw with the rifle and quite a few of the smoothbores, you can't attach a bayonet to it. And as I like to say with the militia, when the British put the pointy thing on the end of the gun, the militia tends to run away. But if they ever do close, the militiaman had something to defend himself with. But today is supposed to be supposed to be mainly about our Firelocks. And we call them Firelocks because they produce fire when you shoot.
I can even give a demonstration here of sparks flying. So as you take your cock, which is your arm here that holds your flint, you would then put your frizzen down. This is the steel wall that actually gets shaved off and creates sparks. Half cock will not fire no matter how much I pull on this trigger. Full cock, I'm ready to fire. So as you can see, sparks go down. Hence the name Firelock, because the powder in your pan would create fire. And some people think, why aren't they just called flintlock? Flintlock and firelock are the same, right? Not exactly. Flintlock is a modern term, as most people use flint in their firelocks nowadays. But back in the 18th century, any hard stone was used. Flint, chert, quartz even. Anything that would shave a spark off of their frizzen.
Another distinction of firelocks is not only flintlocks are called firelocks. When the settlers at Jamestown bring muskets over, they are mostly matchlock guns. A lot of those guns are called firelocks as well. So anything that creates fire to light powder is a firelock. Excuse me.
How much powder can actually go in these for a load? Well, that's a very personal question to the individual. But according to an 1828 manual, for the British arms, ever since 1775, the load was 165 grains of powder on the field. But a blank charge for practice was 138 grains. Whereas a civilian just wanting to put food on his plate, he would normally start out with whatever caliber his gun is. So if it's 54 caliber, 54 grains of powder, 70 caliber, 70 grains of powder, and go up or down from there as it increased his accuracy.
Another question that our viewers asked was, what's the difference between muskets? Muskets, in one sense, have absolutely no difference, and muskets in another sense have just astronomical difference. If you're talking about stylistically, every country has its different style of musket. So a British Brown Bess, which is your most common musket here in the Revolution, is going to be different than the Charleville, which is your second most, which is your French musket. I would encourage you to do your own research into the different things stylistically. But if you're talking about function, there is no difference in the 18th century. They're all flintlock rifles, flintlock guns that are big bore, usually between 60 and 80 caliber. They're smooth bore and they're carried militarily. But you do see in some civilian accounts smooth bore Fowlers called muskets as well.
And this here is even meant to be a musket that was restocked and sent to the colonies. As these muskets wore out, and as the colonists needed more firearms, what better way than to put it on a new stock of wood, give it new life.
Okay, what we're going to do now is a firing demonstration. I'm going to go over some arms commands that are used by the militia. So the first thing I'm going to say is prime and load, and we'll go over the loading process. The next thing I will say is make ready, and you'll see what that looks like. Take aim and fire, and those will be pretty evident. So
first, let's go over the way the firelock fires before we go into it. Here, you've got your frizzen, which is what shaves off sparks. You've got your cock. This is what holds your flint or your other hard stone and actually shaves the metal off of your frizzen, creates sparks into your pan, which holds powder. You've got a touch hole here, which holds your main charge and your barrel. and allows the fire from the pan to go into the barrel, thus causing it to fire.
You ready?
Go ahead.
Company, prime and load. Mike, ready. Present. Oh, that's good. Fire. Prime and load. Mike, ready. Take aim. Fire. Charge. Fire.
But as you saw that command there, you might have noticed we didn't ram anything down. If we were actually firing, after we pour, everything is primed first. After priming, you pour your powder down the barrel, and you would also have a ball in your cartridge. After you put your ball in there, you would take your rammer out, put it in there, and once given the command, ram it down. But to reduce any sort of harm that might come to individuals, as we're not in a real fight right now, we're just using blanks.